Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. We had a story in the news about maybe 2 weeks ago or so, and it was so troubling. It was a story of a woman who was went in for some surgery, and the doctor removed a kidney because he thought it was a cancerous tumor.
Yeah, horrible.
And the kidney was fine. There was nothing wrong with the kidney. So after surgery, the woman ends up with a kidney missing, and there was no reason to remove it. And how we ended up knowing that is beyond me. I don't know how that news made it to the news outlets and then trickled down to people like us doing a radio show, but it did. And it wasn't the first time we've heard something like that. And if you're a doctor, please understand that I admire what you have chosen to do for a living, and I'm also completely understanding that nobody's perfect. But when you hear about mistakes that seem to the rest of us that could be prevented, you do have to scratch your head and wonder, how do we know which doctors won't be doing those kinds of mistakes? I mean, do we have to go back to their schooling and actually look at their grades? Because, a passing grade will make you a doctor.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean you did really well in school. It just means you passed, right? Mm-hmm. So nobody has gone through what I'm talking about more than our next guest. She is Gloria J. York. She's a journalist, an intuitive messenger and channeler. Well, that's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
She's an empowered empath. I don't know what that is. A tarot card reader. And her book is called Medical Manslaughter. This is a true story, by the way. And I know there are certain things I don't have permission to say. So I don't want to say anything until I find out from Gloria what I can say. So I'll follow your lead, Gloria. But first, good morning. How are you?
Oh, good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm in balmy Chicago.
Well, thank you. You don't have snow right now, do you? Do you have snow?
Yeah, we do on the ground. It's been just light flurries the last couple days.
Oh, okay. And did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
It's like New York, only it has an E at the end.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you. All right. Now, I really am reluctant to say much until you give me the go-ahead. Who is the book about?
Okay, the book is about my husband's death, and I had to write it as fiction in order to change our names, the names of the doctors, and the names of the hospitals. Other than that, everything written here is exactly true, exactly the way that it happened. And my husband died 6 years ago due to doctor error. Doctor gave him a sleeping pill against my wishes when he had blood all over the sides of his brain and inside his brain. So I wrote the book to expose this medical epidemic that is happening within the medical field, whereas nearly 400,000 patients are dying every year due to doctors making mistakes.
Okay, but the story, however, although fictionalized, it's really your story. So Gabriella and Nick are the couple that represent you and your husband?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So I can refer to him as Nick. Is that okay?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. Now, Nick was from what Robin tells me, a very accomplished musician.
He was a Chicago legend. He was in the music business nearly 60 years, had a big band orchestra. He was a singer, entertainer, virtuoso of the tenor sax, and he backed the original Rat Pack and a lot of the other major stars that anyone would recognize.
Wow. Why was he under doctor's care in the first place? What happened?
He wasn't. He was in excellent health, and just one morning, on a Sunday morning, he woke up and was going on his way to in the hall, and all of a sudden, I heard 3 loud thumps, and I went running to him, and he was already like beyond, and I got him brought back, and he was rushed to the hospital. They found he had blood on all sides of his brain and inside his brain. Then they had to transport him to a larger Chicago hospital that had a neurological department. They transferred him, put him in ICU for 3 days. The blood started to go back into the body, and they said he needs to go to an upper floor, a regular floor, where he can get rehab, and they said he would be home in 3 days.
Oh, my gosh, and he wasn't.
Well, the doctor that assumed his chart came in while he was sleeping and told me that she was going to change a lot of his medicines, and that night she was going to give him a sleeping pill. And I said to her, did you read the chart? Because he's got blood all over his brain. And I said, I'm not a doctor, but that doesn't sound right to me. And she said, oh, yeah, I want him to get a lot of rest. I said, he's resting fine. He doesn't need a sleeping pill.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
she said, arrogantly, she said, I know what I'm doing. And she walked out of the room.
Oh, my gosh. Don't you hate that? So, did he have an aneurysm? Is that what you're describing?
No. So after 2 weeks of them she gave him the sleeping pill. They slipped it to him early because they knew I didn't want him to have it. And he normally got his pills at 10 o'clock, but they slipped it to him at 8:30, and so that I wouldn't be aware. And by the next morning, he was already in a coma. And after 2 weeks of them trying to figure out why he was in a coma, and they couldn't bring him out, the head of neurology said to me, let him die. I said, let him die. He said, yes, he's lived a great life. He said, let him die.
How old
and
was
I
he?
said, I have no intentions of doing that.
Yeah,
he was
really?
87,
Okay.
but he was in excellent health, and he had gigs on the books and everything. And so I said, I'm going to bring him out of this coma. And they said, well, we're going to discharge you. And so no nursing home would take him because he was in a coma, but finally one did because they thought he was going to die in 5 days. They took him in, and within 34 days, I brought him out of a coma. And in medical manslaughter, I give you tips on how you could do that.
So you brought him out of the coma?
Right, I did.
And how long did he live
and
after?
Everyone said no.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so how long did he live after that?
After I brought him out of coma, he came out in August, and I had to teach him how to speak again because his words were all garbled. Had a speech therapist a couple days. I read him baby books, and all of a sudden he got his speech back. And then I brought him home on hospice in November, and he died in my arms in January. And I stayed in the book, be very careful what hospice provider you choose. I unfortunately didn't choose the right one because they were very negative, and all they kept talking about was him dying and death. And there are several people that go on hospice that get better, and then they don't need hospice anymore.
Right,
but this particular provider, all they could think about was death, and so that became an issue, and that is reviewed in the book too.
So in the book, does the character who represents you also possess the ability to be a channeler and an intuitive?
Right. I mirrored all the characters, both characters, after my husband and myself. So it mirrors it perfectly.
Okay,
yeah.
so that would tell me then that Gabriella, or Gabriella, is that am I saying it right? Is also an intuitive?
That's correct, yes. And so being a channeler and clairaudient, clairvoyant since childhood, naturally since my husband passed, he has channeled to me and told me about the other side. And that would be very comforting for anyone to read as they learn what it's like, the process of dying, and what it gives you a glimpse on what it's like over there on the other side. It's a beautiful thing.
I want to talk about that just for a little bit. Did the way his doctors handled him, the what you just told us about the sleeping pill and all that, was that something he expressed an opinion about from the other side?
No. He just would tell us what actually occurred as he passed over who was there to greet him and all, and how it all went down, and what it's like over there, and what they can do. In other words, they don't ever forget us back here. But he explains it beautifully. So I encourage anyone who has interest or might be afraid of dying to read Medical Manslaughter, and you'll get a more peaceful view of it.
Give us some ideas, some of the little samples of what he told you.
Well, one thing is, he said that they have an existence that simultaneously they could be in two places at one time. So it's naturally when you go over and your life is reviewed and you see where you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish and some things you didn't accomplish. And so you start to look at another challenge to try to go over it again. And so a different scenario is presented to you for you to come back and to live your life again, because what you're trying to do here while you're on earth is to gain perfection. That's what it is. Yeah. And so he said that when anyone mentions their name, someone's deceased, when you mention their name, that spirit comes back and is standing like right next to you, and they listen to you, and they hear you. And if you have problems, talk to them, because they're in another dimension and they can see things more clearer, and they can advise you. And if you hear like something in your head going over and over again, that's them whispering in your ear. So you're never left and you're never forgotten.
You talk about the prayer never found to fail.
Right. The Blessed Mother, I include that. This is a prayer that was given to me when I was in 3rd grade by a nun. And whether you're Catholic or not, it doesn't matter. You pray this prayer, and the Blessed Mother will answer your prayer. She will help you. She's a beautiful spirit, very loving. And so that is never found to fail. It's guaranteed. And my husband and I wear the scapular, and the scapular, Blessed Mother scapular of Mount Carmel, says that he who was wearing this when you pass over will never see the fires of hell. And when my husband was dying, I was crying out to Blessed Mother, and I asked her to tell me that she kept her promise. And she did. I had a dream, a very poignant dream one morning after he passed, and he was running towards me in his full tuxedo with the scapular on the outside, carrying a blue rosary, my favorite one, and it was bouncing back and forth, and he was just beaming. He was smiling. He was so happy, and he looked beautiful. And as he got closer to me and I outreached my arms, he disappeared. And I woke up crying, and I knew it was the sign from the Blessed Mother. I asked her to let me know, and she let me know by showing the scapular and by showing her rosary beads.
Wow, I love that. Is the fact that you've changed the names possibly going to be changed once whatever legal stuff you're going through is done? Could we change this from being a fictional book to a nonfiction book?
I'm not going through any legal things at this point. When it first happened, I contacted an attorney when he was in the nursing home, and they were very interested in it and excited until they learned the name of the hospital. Then they turned off and said, no, you know what, we don't want to pursue this. So a few weeks later, I went to another attorney, and that attorney said, send me all the records. And I did. So he called me one day, and he said, when did you say your husband went into a coma? I said, July 27th. He said, let me read the record to you. July 27th, patient alert and anxious to go home. July 28th, patient alert and anxious to go home. I said, no, he was in a coma 34 days. He said, my dear, the doctor and the nurse went in, and they changed the record on you. You don't have a leg to stand on. In court, the doctor is God. You are nothing. I'm sending this all back to you. I'm so sorry. He said, I've seen this happen before, and there's nothing you can do. I said, I promise you I will have the last word. And that's why I wrote this book.
Wow. Did you also write a book called Midas Touch?
Yeah, I was one of the authors in my sets. There was 26 of us. I wrote a chapter.
Okay.
It became a bestseller on Amazon for an extended period of time in 3 categories. It was a bestseller, and that's why I became a best-selling author.
It sounds like there's more than one message here for the reader. There's the message that be careful about, be careful that your loved ones are getting the right medical treatment, etc. But there's also the message of death is not the end, and your loved one is not in a bad place. Is that the second part? Is that something that you feel is across the board, or do we each have our own worries? Just like with the doctor, we're all not going to get a doctor who does the wrong thing, and are we all going to be in a good place? Is that possible?
No. Each person, naturally, as you live this life, everything that you do is recorded on your soul. And inside of you, obviously, is a spirit. And it's the spirit that lives over and over again, trying to be perfect. But you are responsible for what you do here in this life. So obviously, your next life is not going, let's say that you are a killer, you murder people, you obviously are not going to be in the same dimension as someone who is very spiritual and loving and has tried to lead a good life.
I hope so,
there are so many dimensions. There's so many dimensions to the next world. And so you may, if you did bad here and was a very bad person, you'll end up on a dimension that is totally dark and black, and you'll just long for light and warmth and that, and you won't have it. Whereas somebody more spiritual will be on a level where there at least be light and maybe singing. And so it's different for each person. It's different.
So Nicholas has been gone almost 6 years now? Is that right?
January 6th will be 6 years. Correct.
And you encourage people to never give up on life and to always believe in miracles.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, when you start reading about the 6 miracles that happened here, and everyone was given up, and I just stood strong by myself. And the book, touches on what it takes to be a good advocate. Choose an advocate, someone who will watch over you when you're ill. Choose them now while you're healthy, especially during the Christmas season. It's a good time to talk to your relatives and friends, and ask them, would you be my advocate if I ended up in a hospital or a nursing home? And then it touches on, naturally, what it's like to live in a nursing home, what it's like to be on hospice. And like I said before, it gives you tips on bringing someone out of a coma. So it has a lot of messages in there. It's a super abundance of information. And the bottom line is it's like a blueprint to keep you alive.
Were 87 years enough for him to get all the things done that he wanted to do?
No. Even when he passed, he had several bookings booked for his orchestra. He was still singing and entertaining and traveling throughout the world, actually. Wow. And he was in excellent health. He would see his doctor like once a month. And, I mean, he was, there was no clue that he was going to get ill, let alone die. And when he came out of the coma, he asked me one day, what's happening? What's happening? And I said to him, well, you fell into a deep sleep. You weren't well and fell into a deep sleep, but now you're getting better. And he said, well, how long was I asleep? And I said, couple weeks. I went like that. He goes, oh my God. He got so frightened.
Wow.
So I had to, calm him and say, hey, but you're getting well now. So you have to realize when he came out of the coma, yes, he did have brain damage, and it would be off and on. Sometimes he'd ask about his brother, and yet his brother had passed 20 years ago. And so, he was very fragile. He was fragile. He was back, but he was fragile.
Gloria, did he ask about his brother because while he was in a coma, he had a near-death experience?
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. He said, his brother's name was Red. He said, he was going to stop and see me today, and we were going to go to lunch. Have you seen him? And I said, no, I haven't seen him. And he said, well, call him on the phone. I want to talk to him. So I had my brother. I called him and I said, call and pretend you're his brother.
Oh, no.
And he did. And he said, I can't do lunch today, but because I'm busy at the music studio, but I'll come next week and we'll go to lunch. And,
wow.
And then my husband said, oh, that's great. I can't wait to see you again.
Wow. So I have a question about unfinished work. And this is maybe for everybody since you're an intuitive. When we die with unfinished work, are we able to, from the other side, either somehow get it finished or inspire somebody else to finish it on our behalf?
What do you mean by unfinished work?
Okay, let's say, I'm going to make this up now. This is not a real thing. I'm just wondering about stuff. Okay, no, let me use a real thing. I got an idea for a real thing. Okay, like when Vincent van Gogh died, he had never sold a painting, and it must have broken his heart that he didn't sell any. But then after he died, they all started selling. And I wondered, did he somehow look back on his life from the other side and say, gosh, all that work I did and nobody ever bought one, I'm going to do something about that? Is that possible?
No, he looked back, naturally, being that his life, and as his life is reviewed for him, everybody goes through that, and he sees, what had happened and what now is happening, and that's fine. And you know what? Then it's over with. It's like, okay, I'm done with that life. I'm done with being Vincent van Gogh. Now what? Where else can I go? What is the next experience that is presented to me? And naturally, before you're even born, what's presented to you is maybe 2 or 3 different experiences, and they say, well, you want to accomplish, let's say like, let's say he does say, I want to be alive when my paintings do sell. Well, okay, then you could be this particular character. However, you're going to go through this challenge and this challenge, and here's the whole scenario. And so you might pick that. You might say, that's okay. I'll go through all that drama and trauma and everything just as long as I'm alive when my paintings start selling. And then, okay, fine. Then they'll give you that assignment.
Well, Gloria, you have discovered something about yourself as being a writer. You are very good at this, and you've helped us in more than one way. And I knew when we were talking to whoever called to pitch having you as a guest to us, that this was going to be an interesting conversation just based on not only just what the book is about, but about the things that you've done in your life. And so thank you for allowing us to talk to you for so long today. I have a copy of Medical Manslaughter based on a true story. I'd like to give it away to one listener, so I will pick one caller at random. If you call 622-9622, I'll just go ahead and pick somebody. The rest of us have to go buy it. I found it on Amazon. And let's see, it's got a 5-star reviews across the board. It's all she's got is 5-star reviews. Do you have a different website you want to recommend?
Sure, and it's also at Barnes. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. My website is Gloria J. York, and York again is YORKE.US.
Okay, let me give the book away. Good morning, you've got the book. Who's this?
Hi, this is Joanne.
Joanne, do you know where we are?
Yes, I do. I've been by your place several times.
Okay, Joanne, well, you've got the book. It'll be waiting for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Gloria, thank you for giving us the interview. It's been an honor to speak to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. God bless you, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I see your picture on the book, by the way. You're a beautiful lady.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Lillian Wu. A new guilty plea from former Trump attorney Michael Cohen in Manhattan. It's connected to a Trump real estate deal.
Cohen has pled guilty to a felony count of making a false statement back on August 28th to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence regarding that Moscow project. That guilty admission includes the timing, the conversations with people, and any discussions about an attempt to travel to Russia.
Fox's Rick Leventhal outside the courthouse in Manhattan. This plea marks the first time the office of the special counsel, Robert Mueller, has charged Cohen. He's already pled guilty in August to breaking campaign finance laws. The president, hours earlier, tweeting about what he calls a Mueller witch hunt. He'll be heading to the G20 summit in Argentina this morning. And a flood watch extended for parts of Northern California decimated by deadly wildfires. This is Fox News.
Pros in the know start with Lowe's, because Lowe's has a huge selection of the tools pros turn to every day for every job. Right now, get a 16-gallon 6.5 peak horsepower shop vac, a DeWalt 20-volt max cordless impact driver, or a DeWalt 20-volt max cordless drill, each only $99. That's right, only $99 each. Plus, every tool comes with our price match guarantee. So, pro, now that you know, start with Lowe's. Offers valid while supplies last. See Lowe's.com/price match for terms and conditions.
Indeed knows it's hard to find qualified candidates when you're hiring.
It's like finding a unicorn.
But when you post your job on Indeed, it's easy to find people with the skills you need.
Nurse practitioner, 4+ years experience, acute care certification.
Indeed has a huge pool of amazing candidates and screener tools that help you find your most qualified applicants.
Whoa, an entire short list of unicorns.
See why more than 3 million companies worldwide use Indeed to hire. Post your job at Indeed.com/hire. Indeed, the world's #1 job site. Source.com/score total visits.
Opinion. Problems with your AC? Don't lose your cool. Call One Stop Cooling and Heating today. You know, the ones with the bear. Make One Stop Cooling and Heating your one stop for help. And with rebates and off-season pricing, fall and winter is the best time of year to purchase a new system. Contact One Stop Cooling and Heating today for 0% financing options with payments as low as $59 a month with approved credit.
So when your AC goes out, call One Stop Cooling and Heating.
OneStopThermoCool.com. Proud provider of Goodman Equipment. CAC 1817167.
The Great American Menu lives at Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers. Sizzling steak burgers made fresh when you order. Premium beef hot dogs, crispy shoestring fries, and Freddy's rich and creamy custard made fresh throughout the day. The classic taste enjoyed by generations of American families. Served every day at Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers. With the most American ingredient of all, a smile. Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers. The taste that brings you back.
Hi, Matt Wilkerson here, your Verizon representative with news that will hum your car, make it smart and safe. How? With the new Hum device by Verizon. You can rest assured you're never alone. Flat tire? Lost? Accident? For $10 a month, Hum by Verizon has you covered. And I will come to you in Marion County to install the Hum for free. Time to call me at 352-528-0020. Are you ready to hum along? Call 352-528-0020.
This year at Wild Adventures Theme Park, Christmas is bigger and brighter with the all-new Snowville for kids, family photos with Santa, a 5-story animated Christmas tree, and more than 1 million lights throughout the park. All kids 3 to 5 get in free with a pre-K Kids Season Pass, and 2019 Season Passes are on sale now. Make your Christmas bigger and brighter. Get your tickets and 2019 Season Passes now at wildadventures.com.
Nothing says love like a living Christmas gift, and no one has a larger selection of living Christmas gifts than Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens in Ocala. Poinsettias, for example. Bob has a truly huge selection of poinsettias, starting with a 4-inch size, 3 to 5 blooms. You get 3 for $10. The selection in larger sizes, truly gigantic. The same for Christmas cactus, budded and blooming for as little as $3.99. And check out the hanging baskets. They're gorgeous, and they're just $19.99. And they have